Hey guys, tonight we are going to leave the world of human history behind entirely. We're drifting back to a time of myth, to a quiet, sun-dappled corner of ancient Greece, a place the poets called Arcadia. Imagine you are floating in a perfectly clear, cool pool of water on a hot afternoon. The sun filters down through the leaves of an ancient olive tree, painting shifting patterns of light on the smooth stones below. The air is warm and dry, and it hums with the sound of cicadas and the buzz of honeybees in the wild thyme. It's a vision of perfect, timeless peace. As a quick reality check, however, being an obscure nature spirit in ancient Greece was a risky business. You'd likely get on the wrong side of an Olympian's temper tantrum and end up as a decorative shrubbery before lunchtime. It was a world where even the most beautiful, peaceful places were subject to divine drama and collateral damage. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your quiet support is what makes these journeys possible. And as always, I'd love to see where and when you're listening from, so feel free to post your city and local time in the comments. There's something wonderful about knowing we're all sharing this quiet moment together across the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your consciousness is the coolness of the water itself. You are not a human, not an Olympian, not a monster of legend. You are something much quieter. You are a nymph. Your entire existence, your very being, is bound to this small, secluded pool of crystal clear water. You have no body, unless you choose to have one, which is often more trouble than it's worth. It is much easier to simply be the pool. You feel the warmth of the sun on your surface, the tickle of a fawn's tongue as it stoops to drink, the lazy drift of a fallen leaf across your skin. The smooth, gray stones at your bottom are the bedrock of your soul. Your name, when you think of it in a way that mortals could understand, is Pella. And this is your domain. It is not a grand or famous place. No great river flows from here. No major city lies on your banks. You are an obscure spirit, a footnote in the great, thundering epic of the world. And honestly, that's exactly how you like it. Fame, for nymphs in these stories, usually leads to being turned into a laurel tree or a constellation, and you have no interest in either. You are a naiad, a nymph of the freshwater, one of countless sisters who inhabit the springs, rivers, and lakes of the world. You hear the deep, slow thoughts of the dryads in the oak trees that shade your banks, and you sometimes catch a fleeting glimpse of the mountain-dwelling oreads on the distant cliffs. Your world is populated by these quiet, local spirits. The mortals who live in the valley nearby have a name for this. They believe that every place has its own spirit, its genius loci. You are the living embodiment of that belief. You are the soul of this pool. The local herdsmen and their families know that this water is special. They don't worship you with grand temples or bloody sacrifices, but with small acts of respect. They may leave a simple garland of wildflowers on a flat stone by your edge, or murmur a quiet word of thanks after drinking. They know not to foul your water or fell the trees that give you shade. Classicists and theologians still debate whether the countless minor spirits like you were seen by mortals as actual, individual deities to be worshipped, or more as a poetic personification of nature's life force, a way of making the wild world feel more understandable and alive. Are you a goddess, or are you a metaphor? Lying here, feeling the slow, patient pulse of the water, you suspect the answer is somewhere in between. Time, for you, is not measured in days or years. It is measured in the slow, patient erosion of a single stone, the life cycle of the dragonflies that dance above your surface, the gradual shift of the sun's path between the winter and summer solstices. You don't have a busy schedule. Your to-do list for the century is basically, 1. Be a pool. 2. Stay wet. It's a low-stress gig, for the most part. Sometimes, for your own amusement, you will weave yourself a physical form from the water and the light, a shimmering, translucent girl with hair like trailing moss. But it's a lot of effort, like putting on a complicated formal outfit. Most of the time, it's much more comfortable to just stay in your liquid state. It's the spiritual equivalent of working from home in your pajamas. Your quiet, solitary existence is fed by a small, gentle stream that trickles down from the rocks above, bringing with it the taste of minerals and the coolness of the mountain. This stream is your only constant connection to the world beyond your banks. It is a slow, steady whisper from somewhere else, a quiet voice that has been your only companion for as long as you can remember. Word count, 1069. That voice, that gentle current, is not just water. It is a consciousness, much like your own, but different. Where your being is contained and still, a quiet pool of thought is as long and flowing and ever moving. He is a river god, a potamos. Specifically, he is the god of the small, unnamed stream that gives you life. You are two parts of the same whole, the stillness and the motion, and he is your oldest and only friend. His consciousness stretches from the high mountain spring where he is born, all the way down to where he empties into your pool, which is, for him, a quiet and peaceful end to his journey. His name is a quiet echo of a much greater ancestor. The greatest river gods are powerful, ancient beings with famous names. Your friend is not one of them. He is a minor deity of a minor stream, a forgotten tributary. You call him Aeschylus Minor, a gentle, private joke between the two of you. Your friendship is not one of words. It is one of feeling, of sensation, conducted through the medium of the water that connects you. He tells you stories of the world upstream. When a summer storm passes through the high peaks, he sends you water that is colder and carries the clean, sharp scent of rain-soaked pine needles. You know, without being told, that he has just washed over beds of mint when he sends you a current that is imbued with its faint, sweet fragrance. He tells you of the deer that drink from his banks, the weight of their hooves on his stones. He tells you of the way the moonlight looks on his rapids in the upper forests. He is your window to the world, your slow, meandering newsbearer. In return, you are his audience. You are the still, clear place where his long, flowing thoughts can finally gather and rest. Your silent, receptive presence is a comfort to him. You feel his current enter your pool, and you greet him by creating a gentle, welcoming swirl. Your contentment is your reply. Your conversations are long, slow, and mostly about the subtle changes of the seasons. He might spend a week telling you, it's getting colder upstream, and you'll spend the next few days replying with a feeling of, I noticed. It's not exactly sparkling repartee, but it's deeply companionable. Like all river gods, he has the potential for a physical form, though he rarely takes it. The great Potamoi are often depicted by mortals as powerful, bull-horned men, their horns representing the branching tributaries of their rivers, their muscular forms representing the violent force of a river in flood. Your friend has told you, in his watery way, the story of his great, famous ancestor Aeschylus, who wrestled the hero Heracles for the hand of a princess, transforming himself into a great, roaring bull. But your Aeschylus Minor is a gentle, trickling stream. He admits to you that if he tried to manifest as a bull-headed man, he'd likely end up as a slightly damp, very confused calf, and the effort would probably exhaust him for a decade. He is, for a god, remarkably humble. Mythographers and scholars still debate the precise hierarchy of the divine natural world. Did a great river god, a father like the original Aeschylus, have true authority over the thousands of naiads who inhabited the springs and pools that fed his river? Was there a complex feudal system of divine beings, a great watery kingdom? Or was it more of a loose collection of independent spirits, each bound to their own place, who simply coexisted in the same ecosystem? You and Aeschylus Minor don't trouble yourselves with such politics. He is not your king, and you are not his subject. You are friends. He is a constant, steady presence in your timeless existence. You feel the slow, patient rhythm of his being in the pulse of the water that enters your pool. He is the motion to your stillness, the journey to your destination. He is the quiet story of the mountains, and you are the quiet listener in the valley. The bond between you is as clear, and as deep, as your own cool water. And for centuries, this has been enough. Word count, 1061. Your friendship is the gentle, unchanging rhythm beneath your existence. But it is not all you are. You have your duties. They are not grand or heroic, not the sorts of tasks that will ever be sung about by a mortal poet. They are small, quiet, and endless. They are the sacred responsibilities that come with being the soul of this pool. Your work is the slow, patient art of maintenance, of stewardship, of being. Your most important duty is to maintain the purity of your water. The reverence that mortals have for clear, clean springs is not accidental. They instinctively recognize that pure, flowing water is the source of life, a gift from the earth itself. And you are the keeper of that gift. You do not filter your water with hands or tools, but with your will. You feel a gust of wind dislodge a shower of dead leaves from the oak trees, and you create a slow, deliberate eddy to gather them together and nudge them towards the bank, where they can be reclaimed by the soil. You sense the fine silt carried by your friend, the river god, and you gently encourage it to settle in the deepest parts of your pool, leaving the shallows clear and bright. You discourage the growth of the slimy green algae that loves stagnant water, keeping your own currents just active enough to remind it that this is a place of life, not decay. Your second duty is to the flora that shares your home. You are the gardener of this small, watery paradise. You feel the roots of the ferns that cling to your mossy banks, and you ensure a trickle of moisture always reaches them. You tend to the water lilies, nudging their great, flat green pads with a gentle pressure so that they do not become a tangled mat, giving each one space to breathe and turn its face to the sun. You take a particular pride in the smooth, gray stones that line your bed. Over the centuries, you have been slowly polishing them. Using the gentle friction of a focused current, you rub away every rough edge, every imperfection, until they gleam under the water like a collection of giant, sleeping pearls. It is a project you've been working on since before the nearby mountains were considered middle-aged. Mortals have their ambitions of building empires. You have an ambition of making one particular stone exceptionally smooth. It's all a matter of scale. Your third duty is to the fauna, the living creatures who depend on you. You are their silent, benevolent guardian. When a young fawn, clumsy and new to the world, comes to drink, you use your will to quiet the ripples and present a surface as still as glass, so as not to frighten it. You are a subtle guide to the local wildlife. You cannot put up a sign that says, "Beware of herons," but you can create a slight current that nudges a school of small fish towards the safety of a tangled root ball when you sense the shadow of the great bird passing overhead. The frogs who lay their gelatinous eggs in your shallows are your seasonal children, and you watch over them with a quiet, detached affection. You are a gentle spirit, a calm and nurturing presence. But you are aware that not all nymphs are like you. Classicists and theologians in the mortal world will one day debate the dual nature of nymphs as they are portrayed in the myths. Were they predominantly benevolent spirits of nature, shy helpers of mortals and animals? Or was there a more dangerous, wild aspect to them, with stories of nymphs who, if offended by a mortal's arrogance or disrespect, could drive them to madness or lure them to a watery grave? You know there is truth in both. You have felt the anger of your cousins in the wilder, more turbulent rivers, and you know that the power of nature has a sharp edge. But it is not your way. Your essence is one of peace. And so your eons pass. Tending, polishing, guiding, waiting. Your existence is a long, slow, quiet poem. It is cosmic housekeeping, really. A little light dusting of the silt, some rearranging of the lily pads. And in the background of it all, the constant, steady, friendly presence of the stream that feeds you, the voice of your oldest friend. The seasons drift by in a slow, green and gold procession. After you have tended to your lilies and guided the last of the evening's deer to drink, you let your own consciousness settle. You cease your small duties and you listen, truly listen, to your friend. You turn your awareness to the gentle current that feeds your pool, the constant, steady stream of his being, and you feel the weight of his existence. It is very different from your own. Where you are still and contained, he is in constant, perpetual motion. His very nature is to flow. It is a divine imperative, a gravitational pull he can no more resist than a mortal can resist breathing. His consciousness is a long, liquid line stretching for miles, from a cold, hidden spring high in the mountains, down through pine forests and rocky glens, across sun-drenched meadows, and finally, here to your pool. He can never truly rest. His existence is one long, unending commute from the mountains to the valley. You, on the other hand, have perfected the art of staying in one place so completely that you sometimes forget you have a distinct form. You balance each other out. This constant motion is his first burden. The second is the weight of his memory. As a river god, he is an ancient, primeval being, older than many of the flashy, dramatic gods of Olympus. His memory is not a collection of neat stories, but a deep, silty bed of accumulated sensations. He holds the memory of every drop of rain that has ever fallen in his watershed. He remembers the feeling of great, shaggy-haired aurochs drinking from his banks, beasts that have long since vanished from these lands. He remembers the roots of ancient trees that have been dust for 1,000 years. His sense of recently covers the entire lifespan of the oldest oak tree on your bank. It makes your own worries about a lily pad being in the wrong spot seem rather trivial. Sometimes, he shares these memories with you, sending you a sudden, inexplicable chill that is the memory of a winter 5 centuries past, or a brief taste of a type of wildflower that no longer grows on the mountainside. You are the keeper of his quietest, most ancient secrets. There is another burden he carries, a strange and subtle one. Because he is born from the hidden places of the earth and his water gives life, he has a faint, indistinct connection to the future. It is not the clear-seeing prophecy of an oracle. It is something much more vague and unsettling. He feels the future as a change in the current of time itself. Long before a drought, he will tell you that the water feels thinner, that his spirit feels a strange dryness. Before a great storm, he will murmur that a heaviness is gathering in the distant west. He's less of a prophet and more of a vague, divine mood ring. This faint foresight is not a gift, it's a source of low, constant anxiety, a feeling of events approaching that he is powerless to stop or clearly understand. Geographers and mythologists will one day debate the extent to which the personification of rivers was literal versus metaphorical for the ancient Greeks. Did they truly believe a river's changing course was a conscious, emotional act by a willful god? Or was it a poetic way to describe and build a relationship with a powerful, unpredictable, and vital natural force? As you feel your friend's ancient consciousness flowing into yours, you know the truth is, as always, somewhere in the middle. He is both the river and the spirit of the river, a being of water and memory. He carries all of this with a quiet, flowing resignation. His existence is one of constant movement, of deep memory, and of vague, unsettling feelings about what is to come. And your pool, your quiet, still, and present-focused consciousness, is his sanctuary. You are the place where his long, weary journey finds a pause. You are the calm heart of his flowing world. In your stillness, he finds a measure of peace. This is the nature of your friendship. You are his anchor, and he is your connection to the vast, slow story of the world. The timeless rhythm of your shared existence continues for an age. The sun warms you, the moon cools you, the seasons turn, and the slow, gentle thoughts of your friend, Achilles Minor, are your constant company. But one day, something changes. It is not a sudden, violent event. It is a subtle wrongness, a flaw in the current, a note played just slightly out of key. It begins with the water your friend sends you from upstream. It feels tired. The crisp, invigorating chill that usually comes from the mountain springs is replaced by a lukewarm listlessness. The clean, mineral taste of the water, your oldest and most familiar sensation, becomes dull and flat. It tastes, to your ancient senses, like water that has lost its will to flow. For the first time in centuries, you feel sluggish. It's a deeply unpleasant feeling. You're a being of pure, clear water. Feeling like a lukewarm, slightly sad puddle is a major blow to your self-esteem. Soon, the malady begins to affect your own pool. The water loses its perfect, crystalline clarity. A faint murkiness appears, a milky haze that obscures the familiar shapes of your beloved, polished stones at the bottom. The water lilies on your surface, which you have always tended with such care, seem to droop, their leaves losing their vibrant green. And then comes the greatest indignity. On the sunniest, warmest stones along your bank, a thin, slimy film of green algae begins to grow. For eons, you have effortlessly discouraged its presence with your will alone, keeping your home pristine. But now, your will feels weak against it. The algae is taking hold. It's the equivalent of a divine being getting a persistent skin rash. It's not life-threatening, but it's annoying, unsightly, and deeply undignified. You share your worry with Achilles Minor. He sends you no answers, only his own feelings of confusion and a slow, deep, flowing ache, as if his very current hurts him. You reflect back your concern. Your silent, watery conversations, once so peaceful and full of simple observations, are now tinged with a shared, quiet anxiety. You wonder about the cause. In the world of gods and mortals, sickness in the land is often a reflection of a spiritual stain, a concept the Greeks call miasma. It is a kind of pollution that infects a place after a great crime has been committed, a murder, a betrayal, an act of profound sacrilege against the gods. Has a mortal done something terrible upstream? Has someone's crime bled into the earth and poisoned the water at its source? This is how you understand the world. A physical sickness in nature must be the symptom of a spiritual one. You remember times, long ago, when mortals understood this connection. You have felt the strange, tickling sensation of a lock of a young woman's hair drifting down the current, an offering she made to the river god upon her wedding day. You have tasted the sweetness of honey cakes left on your bank, a gift to ensure fertility. These small acts were a way for mortals to maintain their good relationship with you, to keep the world in balance. But it has been a long time since anyone has made such an offering. Environmental historians and classicists will one day debate how the ancient Greeks truly perceived human impact on the environment. Did they have a concept of ecological damage in a practical, scientific sense? Or was pollution almost exclusively understood through the spiritual lens of miasma, where a murky river was not a sign of upstream soil erosion, but a sign of divine disfavor or a moral stain on the land? You do not have two separate categories. To you, the physical and the spiritual are one and the same. The water is sick, therefore, its spirit is sick. You and your friend try to diagnose the problem. He sends you images from his banks. The deer still drink, the birds still sing. He has not seen any sign of a great crime. You search your own depths for an answer and find none. Your current theory is that someone, somewhere upstream, has been thinking exceptionally boring thoughts, and it's making the water fall asleep. It seems as plausible as anything else. The days pass, and the water grows a little warmer, a little murkier. The wrongness lingers, a quiet, persistent question that neither of you knows how to answer. The murkiness remains. The sluggishness in the current deepens. Your friend, HLS Minor, has no more memories to offer, and your own quiet contemplation yields nothing but the same circling worry. You realize that to understand a problem, you sometimes need a different perspective. And so, you decide to speak with your neighbors. Your neighbors are the dryads, the nymphs of the great oak trees that stand sentinel on your banks. Communicating with them is a slow and deliberate process. You are a creature of water. They are creatures of wood and earth. You must extend your consciousness out from your pool, pushing your awareness through the damp soil, feeling your way along the network of roots until you touch the deep, slow consciousness of the trees themselves. It is the spiritual equivalent of making a long-distance call through a party line made of earth and roots. You feel their thoughts, and they are so different from your own or the river god's. Where his thoughts are a constant, flowing narrative, theirs are a slow, patient, vertical awareness. They feel the world through the tips of their leaves, tasting the quality of the sunlight and the direction of the wind. They feel it through their deep roots, sensing the moisture in the soil, the subtle tremors of the earth, the secret pathways of moles and mice. Communicating with a dryad is a lesson in extreme patience. You ask a question, and the answer might come back to you 3 days later, after the thought has slowly made its way from the highest leaves, down the trunk, to the deepest roots, and back again. They are not built for rapid-fire brainstorming. The ancient grove of oaks that shelters your pool is a sacred place. Mortals know this instinctively. They would not dare to take an axe to these trees, for they understand that a grove of ancient oaks is a temple in itself, and to harm it is to invite the wrath of the spirits within. You reach out to the oldest of them, a gnarled and ancient hamadryad, a nymph whose very life force is bound directly to her tree. Unlike other dryads who are merely guardians, if this oak were to die, she would perish with it. Her thoughts, when they finally come, feel ancient and brittle, like dry leaves. You send her your feelings of the water's sickness, the warmth, the slowness, the invading algae. She and her sisters reflect their own feelings back to you. They too have felt a change. The soil, they tell you, is harder and drier than it has been in many mortal lifetimes. The sun has been hotter, the rains less frequent. They have felt the thirst in their own roots. Their main concerns are things like the quality of this year's acorn crop and a particularly persistent woodpecker, but they listen to your problem with polite, woody sympathy. They have seen no great crime, no act that would create a spiritual miasma. The world, as they experience it through the forest floor, is simply thirsty. Mythologists and eco-critics will one day debate the function of these interspirit dialogues in Greek mythology. Are they simply a charming narrative device used to personify different parts of an ecosystem talking to each other? Or do they represent a sophisticated, pre-scientific understanding of ecological interdependence, a deep, intuitive recognition that the health of the trees, the dryads, is inextricably linked to the health of the water, the naiads and potamoi, and that a problem in one sphere will eventually be felt by all the others? The ancient hamadryad offers you her slow, wise counsel. Her advice, when you distill it from her leafy thoughts, essentially boils down to, wait and see. For an immortal being who has seen mountains rise and fall, this is excellent, practical advice. For you, who has to deal with an ever-expanding film of algae now, it is slightly less helpful. You thank the dryads for their counsel and slowly withdraw your consciousness back into the cool comfort of your own water. The consultation has yielded no solution, but it has given you a valuable piece of information. The sickness is not just in your water. It is in the land itself. The world is out of balance. The problem is not a spiritual stain from a single act of evil. It is a slow, creeping dryness, a quiet affliction affecting everyone. And if the answer is not to be found on the land, perhaps it lies deeper in the memory of the water itself. You turn your attention back to your friend, the river god. The answer must be somewhere inside him. The Dryad's counsel, though not a solution, gives you a new focus. You turn your full attention back to Aeschylus Minor, sending him a feeling of gentle, persistent inquiry through the water. You are asking him to do something difficult and draining, not just to remember, but to search his memory, to dive deeper than he has in centuries, to find a time when he might have felt this sickness before. You feel the current that feeds your pool slow even further, becoming almost still. He has heard you. He is pulling his vast, flowing consciousness inward, diverting his divine energy from the simple act of being a river to the complex art of introspection. For you, in your quiet pool, it is like watching a dear friend fall into a deep, meditative trance. His memory, as you have come to know, is layered like the sediment of his own riverbed. The most recent memories are the fine, light silt on the surface, easily stirred. As he begins his search, he sends you faint, fleeting echoes of these. You feel the ghost of last winter's ice on your surface, the taste of the first spring blossoms, the memory of a particularly loud and cheerful frog who lived on your banks 2 summers ago. These are not what you are looking for. You gently urge him deeper. He sinks past the memories of the last few mortal generations. The faces of the current villagers dissolve, replaced by their grandparents and great-grandparents. He recalls the sound of their axes as they cleared a small patch of forest, the feeling of a child's clumsily made toy boat bobbing along his current. He pushes deeper still, through the ages of men as the poets describe them. He has a faint, watery memory of the age of heroes, when great, bronze-clad men, shining with a terrible, short-lived light, passed through this valley. They were loud, shiny, and always on some very important, dramatic quest. He was glad when they left. They were terrible for the fish. Deeper still he goes, to a time before the heroes, before the current villages, to a greener, quieter world. Here, his memories are less about events and more about pure sensation. And among them, he finds a strange one. He shares it with you. It is the memory of a mortal priest, robed in animal skins, kneeling where you now are. The pool was different then, wilder, but it was the same place. The priest is practicing a form of divination, hydromancy, dropping pebbles into the still water and reading the future in the patterns of the ripples. The memory is a reminder that this spot has always been sacred, a place where the mortal and divine worlds touch. But it is still not what you need. You encourage him one last time, to the very bottom of his soul, to the bedrock of his consciousness. And there, after what feels like an entire season of silent, deep contemplation, he finds it. It is not a memory of this same sickness. It is a memory of his own birth. He remembers that his strength comes not from one source, but two. There is the main spring, the one the mortals know, that bubbles up in the high meadow. But there is another, a secret source, a hidden spring that emerges from a deep, rocky cleft in a secluded part of the forest. This hidden spring, he remembers now, provides the deep, cold, life-giving water that is the very heart of his power. It is a memory he had almost forgotten, like a mortal forgetting the name of a childhood friend. Folklorists and geographers will one day debate the role of myth in preserving practical, ecological knowledge. When a story speaks of a river's secret source, is it purely a symbolic invention? Or could it be a form of folk memory, a story that preserves the real-world location of a vital but easily overlooked water source, passed down for generations in the form of a myth? As your friend sends you this memory, it is not a debate. It is a revelation. The problem is not a spiritual stain or a great drought that affects the whole land. It is something specific, something physical. The sluggishness, the warmth, the sickness. It must mean that this hidden, vital spring, his secret heart, has become blocked. The vague, unsolvable malady has just become a clear, tangible quest. You know now what must be done. The revelation settles in your pool, a cool, clear thought in the midst of the murky water. A problem with a location is a problem with a solution. A great spiritual stain upon the land would be an intractable thing, but a blocked spring is a physical problem, something that can be fixed. A renewed sense of purpose flows from you to your friend, and you feel him gather his strength. He cannot guide you there physically, for you are bound to your pool. So he does the next best thing. He sends his consciousness upstream, on a journey of exploration, and you are his anchor and his audience. You feel him travel, his watery essence moving past the familiar landmarks of his lower reaches. He pushes his awareness into the higher forests, parts of his own being that he has not paid close attention to in mortal lifetimes. The sensations he sends you are of a wilder place, the sharp, clean scent of pine, the feeling of tumbling over smooth, gray granite, the deep, cool shade of ancient trees. He follows the memory of his own birth, searching for the hidden cleft in the rock. And then he finds it. Or rather, he finds where it should be. It is a small, secluded dell, overgrown with ferns and thick moss, a place that feels ancient and secret. But there is no gush of water. Where a vibrant spring should be emerging from the rock, there is only a pathetic, muddy trickle. He has found the site of the affliction. And he has found the cause. It is not a great beast, not a fallen boulder from a landslide, not the work of some malevolent, minor god of the underworld. The cause is almost disappointingly mundane. A mortal herdsman has rolled a half-dozen large, heavy stones into the mouth of the spring. He has packed the gaps with clods of earth and turf, creating a crude but effective dam. The water that does manage to seep through is diverted into a hollowed-out log, a makeshift trough for his herd of goats. Through your friend's senses, you can see the herdsman now. He is a lean, sun-darkened man, his life spent in the high pastures. He is not like the settled farmers of the valley below. His life is one of constant movement, following his flock to the best grazing. He is a practical man, concerned only with the immediate needs of his animals. He saw a small, insignificant trickle of water in a hidden place and, without a thought, he put it to use. He has no idea that this tiny spring is the secret heart of the stream below, the source of its coolest, most vital water. He has no idea he has essentially put a cosmic kink in the divine plumbing of the entire valley. You feel the presence of his goats. They are nimble, bearded, and have eyes with unnervingly horizontal pupils. They climb on the rocks, bleating loudly, and eat everything in sight. You decide you are not a fan of goats. You also sense a strange, wild power in them, a notion that mortals hold about their kind. You recall a fragment of knowledge, old as the stones, that some believe goat's blood is a magical substance, one of the few things capable of dissolving a diamond. It is a strange, sharp thought that only adds to the wildness of this place. The herdsman's simple, thoughtless act exists within a wider context. Historians of the mortal world will one day debate the often tense relationship between settled farmers, like the ones in your valley, and the semi-nomadic pastoralists who live in the hills. They were often in quiet conflict over resources, grazing rights, land use, and most importantly, access to water. Was the herdsman's act of damming the spring truly an innocent convenience? Or was it, on some level, a subtle assertion of his right to the water of the uplands, a quiet challenge to the farmers downstream who depended on the river he was unknowingly weakening? Whatever his motive, the result is the same. The lifeblood of your friend is being choked off. The great sickness that has afflicted your peaceful existence for months is not the work of a vengeful god or a mythical beast. It is the work of a man named Lycomedes who just wanted to make watering his goats a little bit easier. Having an answer is a relief, but it presents a new and very delicate problem. You cannot simply command the man to undo his work. You are not a great Olympian, capable of appearing in a crash of thunder and glory. An act of overt divine intervention would be unseemly for spirits as obscure as yourselves, and it could draw unwanted attention. You must find another way. A gentler way. A quieter way. Word count, 1098. The truth of the matter settles upon you both, a heavy, inconvenient fact. The problem is a mortal one, and it requires a mortal-scaled solution. Your first instinct, the old, ancient, divine instinct, is one of power. Your friend, Achilles Minor, could, with a great and terrible effort, gather the strength from his entire length and create a flash flood, a torrent of water that would scour the dell clean and wash the herdsman's crude dam away in an instant. But the cost would be immense. Such an act of overt power would exhaust him for a mortal lifetime, and would likely harm the man or his flock, staining the water with the very miasma you both fear. And you could rise from your pool in your full, terrifying, divine form, a being of shimmering water and blinding light, and command the man to undo his work. But you know the stories. Mortals who gaze upon the true form of a god are often struck mad or blind. Using your full glory to get a man to move a few rocks is like using a thunderbolt to light a candle. It's overkill. You'd make a huge mess, and you'd probably set the curtains on fire, metaphorically speaking. No, wrath and power are not the answer. The herdsman is not malicious, merely thoughtless. His crime is one of ignorance, and so the solution must be one of knowledge. You must persuade him, not command him. You are a nymph, and your power is not that of the thunderbolt, but of the whisper. Mortals have always known that nymphs can touch the mind, for good or for ill. It is why they call the frenzied state of a poet or a prophet nympholepsy, a seizure or capture by the nymphs. You can bestow a sudden flash of inspiration, a brilliant idea that seems to come from nowhere. You can't command a mortal's thoughts, but you can gently nudge them in the right direction. You are a being of gentle suggestion. You can't summon a tidal wave, but you can make a mortal suddenly have a strong craving for figs, or get a song stuck in his head for a week. You have to work with what you've got. You and Achilles Minor formulate a plan, a quiet conspiracy of water and light. It will be an appeal in two parts. First, a sign in the waking world. Second, a message in the world of dreams. For the first part, your friend will use his remaining strength to subtly alter the nature of the water trickling into the herdsman's trough. He cannot stop it completely, but he can make it less pleasant. He can stop filtering it with his will, allowing it to take on the warm, murky, sluggish quality of his now sickly downstream waters. The goats will still drink, but the water will no longer seem like a gift from a pure, hidden spring. The second part of the plan is your task. Tonight, when the herdsman is asleep, you will touch his dreams. The ancient Greeks believed dreams are a bridge between the mortal and divine worlds, a space where gods can send messages, or oniroi. Crafting a dream for a mortal is a delicate art. You must make it just strange enough that he remembers it, but not so strange that he dismisses it as the result of a bad bit of goat cheese he ate before bed. You will not show him your face, nor speak your name. You will simply weave a feeling. You will show him his beloved goats, but in his dream, their coats will be dull and their cries weak. You will show them drinking from the trough, and in the dream, the water will be dark and foul. Then, you will give him a fleeting, beautiful image of a gushing, crystal-clear spring, and fill his sleeping mind with a profound sense of health, life, and rightness. Philosophers and historians will one day debate the Greek concept of divine influence. When a myth says a god gave a hero an idea, was it a literal act of divine puppetry? Or was it a metaphorical way of describing a person's own sudden, brilliant intuition, a moment of conscience that they could only explain as a voice from the heavens? As you prepare your gentle deception, you know it is both. You will not force the man's hand. You will simply arrange the thoughts in his own mind so that he might, by his own will, arrive at the correct conclusion. The plan is set. He will taste the wrongness in the water when he is awake, and feel the reason for it in his sleep. All you can do now is wait for the sun to set, and for the herdsman to close his eyes. The moon rises, a sliver of polished bone in the dark sky. The world of mortals falls silent, save for the chirp of crickets and the rustle of the night breeze. In the high pastures, the herdsman, Lycomedes, having finished his simple meal of bread and goat cheese, wraps himself in a thick woolen cloak and falls asleep beside the dying embers of his fire. This is the moment you have been waiting for. Gathering your will, you begin your delicate work. You cannot travel physically, but your consciousness, your watery essence, can extend itself. You draw it out from your pool, a fine, shimmering thread of thought, and let it ride upon the cool, damp night air. You are following the path of your own evaporated moisture, a ghost of mist traveling upstream, guided by the familiar presence of your friend, Achilles Minor. You find the sleeping mind of the herdsman. It is, to your senses, a dark, quiet field, and you are a single drop of dew about to land upon it. You enter his mind as gently as possible. You don't want to rummage around in there. A mortal's mind is a messy, cluttered place, full of worries about wolves, lame goats, and the price of cheese. You are just here to deliver a single, important message. You begin to weave the dream. You do not create a story with a beginning and an end, but rather a series of powerful, resonant images. First, you show him his goats, the center of his world. But they are not the sturdy, noisy animals he knows. In the dream, their coats are patchy and dull, their eyes are listless, and their bleating is a weak, pitiful cry of distress. He feels a surge of a herdsman's worst fear, the sickness of his flock. Next, you show him the source of their sickness. He sees them approach the trough he built, but they shy away from it, refusing to drink. You let him see the water in the trough as you now know it to be, murky, stagnant, and lifeless. The dream connects the image of his sick animals directly to the image of the foul water. Then, you change the dream. The image of the stagnant trough dissolves, replaced by a new vision. It is the hidden spring, but not as it is now. In the dream, it is gushing with life, a torrent of crystal clear, sparkling water tumbling over clean stones. The sound of it is like music. The very sight of it is filled with a feeling of vibrant, undeniable health. And in this part of the dream, his goats are strong and lively again, their coats shining in the sun. You are careful. You do not show him his own face. You do not show him the act of moving the stones. You do not accuse him. You simply present him with two paths, two destinies for his flock, one of sickness, linked to the water he has trapped, and one of health, linked to the vision of a free-flowing spring. It's like a very artistic, very symbolic piece of theater. The main takeaway for him should be, stagnant water bad, gushing spring good. You hope the subtlety isn't lost on him. You are tapping into a deep and powerful mortal belief. The Greeks hold dreams in high regard. In the temples of Asclepius, the god of medicine, sick mortals will practice incubation, sleeping within the sacred grounds in the hope that the god will send them a healing dream, revealing a cure for their ailment. You are acting as a wild, anonymous Asclepius, prescribing a cure not through words, but through images. And you make sure to send this dream through what the poets call the gate of horn, the pathway for true, divinely sent dreams, not the gate of ivory, from which false and meaningless visions emerge. Anthropologists and classicists will one day debate how ancient peoples reconciled the divine nature of some dreams with the chaotic nonsense of others. Did they have a clear system for telling which dream was a god's message and which was just a symptom of indigestion? Or was every dream, no matter how strange, seen as a potential coded message from the unseen world, requiring careful interpretation? As the first faint, gray light of dawn touches the mountain peaks, you feel the herdsman's sleep begin to thin. Your work is done. You gently withdraw your consciousness, letting it slide back down the cool morning air to the safety of your own pool. You have planted the seed of an idea. You have delivered the message. Now all you can do is wait, and hope that he understood. The sun rises, and the long, slow morning begins. For you, it is an agony of suspense, which is a new and deeply unpleasant emotion. You are still, waiting, while your friend Achilles Minor keeps a gentle, unobtrusive watch on the herdsman in the high pasture. Through his senses, you feel the cool morning air, you smell the wood smoke from the man's rekindled fire, and you feel the nervous energy of the waking goats. You feel the moment the herdsman, Lycomedes, wakes fully. He sits up, rubbing his face, a look of profound confusion on his features. The dream is still with him. You know this because your friend sends you the man's feeling of unease, a human emotion that tastes sharp and strange in your watery world. The herdsman looks at his flock. The goats are fine, of course, energetically demanding their morning attention. But the memory of their dream sickness is powerful. He then walks over to the trough. He stares into it for a long moment. He sees, as his dream primed him to see, that the water is not quite right. It is not the clear, vibrant water he expected. It is, as your friend has willed it, a little dull, a little warm. The two halves of your plan have connected in his mind. He is not sure why. He does not think, a nymph and a river god have sent me a prophetic dream. He simply feels a deep, instinctual wrongness. He looks at the dam of stones he so cleverly built. He looks at his flock. He looks back at the dam. Then, with a sigh of resignation, as if yielding to a thought that is not his own but is nonetheless correct, he begins his work. You feel the dull thud and scrape of stones being moved, the grunting effort of the man as he undoes his creation. One by one, he rolls the rocks away from the mouth of the hidden spring. And then, you feel it. It begins as the faintest tremor in the water, a new vibration sent from your friend upstream. It is a feeling of pure, unadulterated joy. A gush of cool, fresh, living water, freed from its prison, bursts forth from the rock. The herdsman, seeing the sudden torrent, steps back in surprise. He watches for a moment as the water finds its old path, joining the main channel of the stream. Then he does something simple and profound. He kneels, cups his hands, scoops up the new, clean water, and pours it onto the earth beside the spring. It is a libation, a wordless drink offering to the spirit of the place he has just, for reasons he doesn't fully understand, healed. It is an apology and a thank you, all in one. The effect is not instantaneous, but over the course of the day, you begin to feel the change. The water that enters your pool is a fraction of a degree colder. It tastes cleaner, with that sharp, mineral tang you had almost forgotten. By the next day, the current is noticeably stronger, a more confident and happy presence. The murky haze in your pool begins to recede, your polished stones slowly revealing themselves from the gloom. The slimy film of algae on the rocks, deprived of the stagnant warmth it loves, begins to loosen its hold, and your gentle currents wash it away. The local mortals notice the change, too. A woman from the village, coming to your pool to fill her water jug, remarks to her companion that the water seems sweeter than it has in a year. As a gesture of thanks to the spirit of the pool, she leaves a small, crudely made clay figurine of a woman on your bank. It is a votive offering, a tangible prayer. The herdsman, a few days later, leaves his own, a tiny clay goat, a clear sign that he has connected the health of his flock with the health of your water. Religious historians still debate the nature of everyday piety for the common person in ancient Greece. Was it driven by genuine faith in a personal relationship with the gods? Or was it more transactional, a kind of divine insurance policy where offerings were made primarily out of fear or a desire for tangible rewards? Watching the small clay goat sit on your bank, you feel it was a little bit of both. The sickness is gone. The water is clear. Your small, shared world is whole again. You feel a profound sense of peace and accomplishment, a quiet joy that you share with your friend, the river god. You have faced your first challenge together, not with divine wrath, but with a gentle, watery whisper. In the aftermath of the sickness, a new kind of quiet settles between you and Aeschylus Minor. It is not the worried, watchful quiet of the weeks before. It is the quiet of shared victory, of a bond tested and affirmed. You have acted together, thought together, and healed your shared world. Your friendship, once a simple, passive coexistence, has become something more. It now seeks a way to express its new depth. Your old language of pure sensation, of temperature and taste and current, suddenly feels inadequate. It was the language of neighbors. You now need the language of friends. And it is Aeschylus Minor, the river god, who invents it. One morning, you feel a small, deliberate nudge at the point where his stream enters your pool. It is not the random tumbling of debris. It is a placement. Lying there, nestled amongst the familiar gray stones of your home, is a small, perfectly smooth, startlingly white pebble of quartz. It glows in the clear water, a single point of light. You understand immediately. It is not a rock, it is a thought. It is his way of saying, the water is clear again. It is a symbol of the purity you have both reclaimed. You let your own water swirl around it in a slow, happy eddy, your way of saying, I understand. And I am grateful. This is the beginning. Over the weeks and months that follow, he begins to send you other pebbles, each one a carefully chosen word in your new, silent vocabulary. It is the slowest developing language in the history of the world. One day, a flat, dark piece of schist arrives, its surface streaked with lines of mica that glitter faintly. You feel the memory it carries, the memory of the long, dark, worried time, now solidified into something you can see and comprehend. A week later, a small, moss-green serpentine stone is nudged into your pool, and you feel its meaning instantly, a feeling of life, of growth, of the ferns on the bank and the health of the water. Your communication becomes a form of slow poetry. He doesn't tell you about his journey. he sends you a piece of it. A chunk of reddish granite speaks of the high, sun-warmed peaks near his source. A dark, volcanic stone whispers of the deep, ancient fire within the earth. The floor of your pool is becoming a mosaic of his thoughts, a geological scrapbook of your friendship. Mortals have libraries filled with words. You have a slowly accumulating pile of meaningful rocks. This idea of stones carrying meaning is not entirely alien to the mortal world. Priests will sometimes practice a form of divination by casting a handful of marked pebbles, or thriae, and interpreting the patterns in which they fall to understand the will of the gods. Your language is a more private, more divine version of this, a communication system where the meaning is not in the random pattern, but in the intrinsic nature of the stones themselves. One day, he sends you a stone that is more special than any of the others. It is larger, perfectly round, and impossibly smooth, with a faint, pale band running around its middle. It feels ancient and full of a quiet, centered power. You both understand what it is. It is the omphalos of your small world, a sacred navel stone, the symbolic center of your friendship. Linguists and archaeologists will one day debate the role of symbolic systems in pre-literate cultures. When they find carefully arranged collections of colored stones at ancient sites, are they looking at the remnants of a lost language with a specific grammar and vocabulary? Or are they seeing something more fluid and poetic, a collection of gestures whose meanings depended entirely on a shared cultural and personal context that is now lost forever? Your language of pebbles is exactly this. It is untranslatable to anyone but the two of you. Sometimes he sends you a pebble you don't understand at all. A lumpy, brownish one arrives one day, and you spend a month trying to figure out its meaning. You eventually decide it signifies the time he bumped into a particularly grumpy badger upstream. It's all about interpretation. Your simple, companionable silence has been transformed. It is now filled with a rich, new texture, a depth of communication that is as patient and as enduring as the stones themselves. The language of stones becomes the foundation of your friendship, a slow, deep conversation that spans the seasons. But soon, Aeschylus Minor begins to send you other things, not as words in your silent language, but simply as gifts. They are not treasures in the mortal sense. There is no gold, no silver, no polished gems. They are treasures of the river, things he has found on his long journey from the mountains, sent to you as simple offerings of affection. One day, you feel a delicate object being carefully guided by the current so that it does not snag or sink. It is a single feather from an azure-winged magpie, a brilliant flash of blue and black against the green water. It is a jewel of a thing, perfect and weightless. You create a gentle updraft of water to lift it from your surface and place it carefully on a dry, mossy patch of your bank, where it sits like a tiny, fallen piece of the sky. You, of course, have nothing to give him in return, as your entire world consists of water and the same 5 rocks. You just send him a feeling of pure, uncomplicated delight, which seems to be enough for him. The gifts continue. He sends you a piece of pine root, washed smooth by his currents over a century until it resembles a small, dancing dragon. You place it on your bank, and the local frauds decide it is their new favorite climbing frame. Art is subjective, you suppose. He sends you a perfect, empty snail shell, its spiral a tiny, calcified galaxy. He sends you a single, vibrant red autumn leaf from a maple tree that grows far upstream, a taste of a season that has not yet arrived in your warmer, more sheltered valley. These small, natural treasures reflect an appreciation for the world that the most ancient mortals shared. Long before their famous statues and symmetrical temples, the earliest civilizations of Greece, the Minoans and Mycenaeans, filled their palaces with art that celebrated the wild, fluid beauty of nature. Their walls were painted with vibrant frescoes of leaping dolphins, swaying lilies, and the curling arms of an octopus. The simple, organic gifts your friend brings you, the feather, the root, the leaf, are the very things those ancient artists sought to capture. They are the raw materials of beauty. One afternoon, he sends you his most unusual gift yet. It is a small, dark, unassuming-looking lump, so light that it barely sinks. It feels warm to your watery senses. It is a piece of river amber, ancient fossilized tree resin washed out from some hidden deposit deep in the earth. It is not like the clear, golden amber from the cold northern lands that mortals prize so highly. It is dark and full of flaws. But when you nudge it onto a sunny patch of your bank, the light shines through it, and it glows with a deep, warm, honey-colored light. You discover, through idle experimentation, that if you create a current that rubs it against a dry stone, it develops a strange power, a magical clinginess that can attract tiny bits of dried grass. You have no idea what this strange, warm life force is, but it makes the small stone feel even more like a secret treasure. Philosophers and art historians will one day spend a great deal of time debating the ancient Greek concept of beauty, which they called kalos. Was it primarily rooted in the mathematical ideals of symmetry, proportion, and order that they expressed in the perfect columns of their temples? Or was there a competing, perhaps older, appreciation for the wild, asymmetrical, and organic beauty of the natural world, the beauty of a flawed piece of amber or a gnarled root? Looking at your small, curated collection, you know where your own preference lies. Your little pool is transformed. It is no longer just a quiet, secluded watering hole. It has become a gallery, a treasure box, a museum of one river god's affection. Each object on your bank is a memory of a peaceful day, a testament to your quiet, enduring friendship. You are a very wealthy nymph, though your riches can't be spent. They can only be admired and appreciated and held in the heart. Your small pool, with its museum of river treasures, becomes your private sanctuary. From this place of stillness and permanence, you and Aeschylus Minor become silent observers of the one thing in your world that is always, relentlessly changing, the lives of the mortals. Generations of them are born, live, and die in the valley, their brief, hurried existences flickering like fireflies against the vast, dark backdrop of your own timelessness. You watch a young boy with bright eyes and scraped knees who discovers your pool and makes it his secret hiding place. You watch him grow into a lanky, awkward youth who meets a girl in the shade of your oak trees, their whispered promises as fleeting as the dappled light. You watch him become a man, his back bent from the same toil in the fields that his father and grandfather endured. You see the lines of worry deepen on his face as he prays for rain. You see him grow old, his hair turning the color of winter frost, until one day, he simply stops coming, and soon after, you feel the grief of his family on the wind. It all happens in what feels to you like a single, long, sun-drenched afternoon. Their lives are so short, so filled with a frantic energy. The average mortal, if they are lucky enough to survive childhood, will live for perhaps 40 years. Their lives are a cycle of brutal, physical labor, of meager harvests and hungry winters, of sicknesses you can do nothing about, and the constant, low-level fear of their human lords and their unpredictable Olympian gods. You watch them work and worry, love and lose, and you feel a great, detached, and gentle pity for them. They are so busy, always rushing, planning, fearing. They worry about things that will be dust in a season. You worry about things that will be dust in a geological epoch. It's hard to relate sometimes. You watch their rituals and their attempts to impose order on a chaotic world. You see a family erect a herm at the boundary of their land near your grove. It is a simple, squared stone pillar, topped with a carved head of the god Hermes, the protector of travelers and boundaries. It is a simple, rustic marker, a talisman to ward off evil spirits and bring good fortune. It is their way of drawing a line and saying, "This is ours. This is safe." You and your friend watch, amused and touched by their efforts to create permanence in their fleeting lives. You see them pray, and you feel the complex tangle of their emotions directed at the heavens. Classicists and philosophers will one day debate the true nature of a mortal's relationship with the gods. Did they see the Olympians as benevolent protectors to be loved? Or as powerful, terrifying, and dangerously amoral forces to be feared and placated, whose direct attention was best avoided at all costs? From your vantage point, you see that it is both. You feel their desperate hope when they pray for a healthy child, and you feel their raw fear when they pray for deliverance from a storm or a plague. Their faith is a coin with two sides, love and terror. They leave you offerings, too. A handful of first grains, a cup of wine poured onto your bank. They ask you for a good harvest, for clean water, for simple blessings. You appreciate the sentiment, the gesture of respect. But you have no power over such things. The best you can do is provide them with clear water for their thirst and try not to let their goats eat the offering before they've turned their backs. As the centuries drift by like clouds, you and Aeschylus Minor share these observations. You are the constants in the valley. The faces of the mortals change, their houses are built and fall to ruin, but you remain. Their frantic, short-lived dramas underscore the profound peace and stability of your own existence, and the deep, quiet endurance of your friendship. You are the memory of the land itself, watching a long, slow play, while the actors come and go with every passing season. The mortal generations are waves on a great ocean, rising and falling, while you and your friend are the deep, unchanging currents beneath. Their lives are a flash of lightning. Yours is the slow, patient roll of distant thunder. From your sanctuary, you watch the world change. The great age of heroes, the time of Achilles and Heracles, has passed into memory and then into myth. The world is becoming less a stage for the great dramas of the gods and more a project for the busy hands of mortals. This slow change in the world is something you feel in the very water. The raw, chaotic magic of the elder days is fading, replaced by a more ordered, more human world. The great forests are slowly shrinking. New, more organized towns are being built. The mortals are starting to explain the world less with stories of gods and more with a new invention they call philosophy, which seems to involve asking a lot of very complicated questions and getting very few clear answers. It seems much less efficient than just blaming a god, but they appear to be enjoying it. Scholars of intellectual history will one day debate this great rationalization. What caused the shift in the Greek mind from mythos, explaining the world through stories, to logos, explaining it through logic and reason? Was it a sudden revolution in thought, or a slow, gradual fading of belief, like a tide going out? As a being of pure mythos, you feel this tide receding, leaving you and your kind feeling a little more solitary, a little more obscure. You have heard whispers, carried on the wind from the dryads, of sacred springs in other lands that have ceased to flow, their nymphs fading into nothingness as the world forgot them. This is the quiet fear of all immortal spirits, not death, but oblivion. But for now, you remain. And he remains. Your friend, Achilles Minor, still flows from his secret spring. His current is still cool and clear. His voice is still the only one you need to hear. And your friendship, which has now outlasted empires you never knew existed and heroes whose stories have already been half forgotten, is the one true and unchanging thing in your endless existence. Your bond is not exciting, but its endurance record is second to none. The language of stones has become a rich and subtle tapestry of shared meaning. The treasures on your bank are a testament to a quiet, unwavering affection. The grand dramas of the world do not touch you here. The rise and fall of mortal kings, the distant wars, the squabbles of the great Olympians on their mountaintop, they are all just noise, a storm passing far out at sea. Your world is here. It is this pool, this current, this friendship. One evening, as the light turns to a soft, bruised purple, a new stone arrives. It is not a brilliant piece of quartz or a strange, dark piece of amber. It is a simple, plain, gray river stone, worn perfectly smooth by its long journey. It carries no complex meaning, no memory of a great event, no grand emotion. Its message is the simplest and most profound of all. It means, I am here. I am with you. After 1,000 years, hello, is the most beautiful word you can imagine. You greet it with a feeling of pure, peaceful contentment. The current is constant. The pool is calm. The friendship endures. And here, in this place of perfect, timeless peace, our story comes to its end. The image of the small gray stone, a symbol of a quiet and unending friendship, begins to soften and fade. The feeling of the cool, clear water merges with the feeling of your own comfortable bed. The gentle voice of the river god becomes the soft, rhythmic sound of your own breathing. The story is over, and all that is left is the deep, profound stillness of this moment. Let the world of nymphs and gods dissolve. Let the worries of your own day dissolve with them. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to think about. There is only the gentle, heavy pull of sleep, as peaceful and as constant as a river's current, carrying you silently into the deep, quiet darkness.